Okay, now we are moving to part 2 microeconomics. So in the part 2 first syllabus content is they said law of demand and the relationship between the price and the quantity demanded and the assumptions of underlying the law of demand, income and substitution effects, the law of diminishing marginal utility. See, look at what is the meaning of law of demand. Like in other subject like in natural science also there is a law and economics also law, but it is slightly different, right? So in law of demand what it says, no, other things remaining constant as the price of the good increases, then quantity demanded falls. See, when the price of the product is increases, the quantity demanded falls, and when the price of the product decreases, quantity demanded will rise. This is what law of demand says. But very important assumption here it is other things being constant. This is one thing. See, look at one example. See, look at here price of chocolate bar and quantity of chocolate bars demanded. So when the price of chocolate bar is 2.5, the quantity of demanded chocolate bar is 5. And when it is came down to 1.5, the quantity demanded of chocolate bars also increasing to 15. And when the price of chocolate bar is $0.5 and it is increased to 25. So it is a downward sloping. So similarly, if we are moving in opposite way, when the price is 0.5, the quantity demanded is 25, and when it is increases from 0.5 to 1.5, the quantity demanded also changing from 25 to 15. And again it increases from 1.5 to 2.5, the quantity demanded also changes from 15 to 5. See, look at, this is said to be a downward sloping demand curve. The demand curve is, it is a downward sloping, it is a decreasing demand curve, right? So the reason is because of the two reasons. One is income and substitution effect, this is the one thing, and law of marginal utility, this is the two things. See, what is the income and substitution effect? See, example, you are having $100. Just assume you are having $100, and if the price of chocolate bar is $2 means maximum you can buy 50 units of chocolate bar. Say 50 chocolate bars you could buy for $100. And if it is coming down, price of chocolate is coming down to $1 means, then now by using the same $100, now you could buy 100 chocolate bars. See, look at, the price is decreased, but now your real income is increased. You are able to buy more by using the same amount of $100. And vice versa, you can say opposite also. When the price is $100, you are able to buy 100 units. When the price goes to $2.5, then that time you are able to buy only 40 units of chocolate bars. So which means when the price is increasing, then real income is decreasing. This is what it is said. That's what it is said to be a income effect. Simple thing is, yeah, decrease in the price leads to increase in the, if you look at the definition, income effect and substitution effect, we'll see. Income effect means decrease in the price of good lead to increase in real income, and the increase in price of good leads to decrease in real income, opposite way. But what about substitution effect? Substitution effect means when the two products are closely related, or which is considered as an alternative product. For example, if the price of the chocolate bar is increasing from $1 to $2, then what the consumer will do? No, the consumer will move to other company, other chocolate bars, other flavor, like instead of one company, the other company chocolate bars they may prefer. So the consumers are shifting from here to another thing. So this is what it is said to be a substitution effect. Right, consumers are moving to another product when there is a change in the prices. If the price is decreasing, the consumer from other product they are coming here. If the price is increasing, the consumer for this product they are moving to other product. So this is what substitution effect. That's the reason the demand curve is downward sloping. That is the reason. That is the primary reason for demand curve downward sloping. The next one is law of diminishing marginal utility. We have already discussed. Diminishing marginal utility says that when utility means satisfaction, we have discussed in the previous part, and the marginal means also we have discussed it is additional. So additional utility is matter. So diminishing marginal utility means additional utility is falling down. So when you are consuming more and more units of that good, so if you are consuming more quantity of chocolate bars, then you will be receiving less amount of satisfaction. See, for example, per first unit of chocolate bar or first consumption of chocolate bar, you will be having a lot of satisfaction. When you are buying another unit of chocolate bar, then you will be having little less satisfaction than the previous one. Then when you are buying the next one, then little satisfaction, lower, the satisfaction is falling. This is what it is said to be a law of diminishing marginal law of diminishing marginal utility. So that is also one of the reason the demand curve is downward sloping. Okay, and the next thing is this part. What is that? Relationship between individual consumer demand and market demand. See, individual consumer demand is nothing. It is the individual consumer demand, one consumer demand. And the market demand means combine all consumer demand is considered as a market demand. That's it in the law of demand case. And the next part is the factors which is determining the demand. See, the demand curve is like a, if it is, see, look at, before that we need to discuss movements along the demand curve and shift of the demand curve. See, movement along the demand curve takes place within the demand curve because of the change in the price of the product. This is the main thing. Movement along the demand curve takes place because of the change in the price of the product. See, look at this diagram. You could understand. See, if the price of the SD card is increasing, from P to P1, so then quantity also changing from Q to Q1. This is said to be a contraction in the demand curve, which means the quantity is decreasing. Meanwhile, if the price is moving from P to P, okay, you can consider like this also, P1 to P2. The price is moving from P1 to P2. Then quantity demanded changes from here to here. So, which means there is an expansion in the quantity demanded. So, quantity demanded expansion and contraction takes place because of the change in the price of that product. So, movement along the demand curve will take place because of the change in the price. And shift of the demand curve will take place because of the changes in the non-price determinants. So here the non-price determinants are, one is income, second one is taste and preferences, third one is future price expectation, fourth one is price of related goods, and fifth one is number of consumers. So these are said to be a non-price factors. These are said to be a non-price factors of, one second. Okay, the next thing is non-price determinants of demand. So in the previous case we have discussed about the movement along the demand curve will take place because of the change in the price, and here shift of the demand curve will take place because of the non-price determinants. So income is one of the factor, taste and preferences, future price expectation, price of related goods, and number of consumers. These are said to be a non-price determinant. Any changes in these non-price determinants will influence to shift the demand curve either right side or left side. So increase in demand curve means the curve is moving right side. Decrease in demand curve means demand curve is moving left side. See, look at the first one. Income is the first one. Second one is taste and preference. For example, if income increases, obviously the demand for SD card will be increasing, and income decreases means then demand for the product, any product you can say, demand for the product will be decreasing. But there is a difference between normal good and inferior good, so that we will learn it during that income elasticity of demand that time. So generally you remember, income increases means it is a demand curve will be shifting rightward, income decreases means demand curve will be shifting leftward. And the next one is taste and preferences. Yeah, if there is a trend of particular thing, then obviously demand will be increasing, and if it is trend is out of fashion, then it might be decreasing. The next one is future price expectation. If the price in the future will be going to come down, if there is a prediction in the future the price of the product will be coming down, means now the demand for the product will be coming down. And in the future the price of the product will be increasing, means now the demand for the price will be increasing, sorry, demand for the product will be increasing. So this is the another thing. And the price of related goods. So here it is related goods means substitutes and complement. See, substitute means, you know that substitute player, when you are playing cricket or soccer or basketball, you know that there is a substitute player. So substitute means alternate player, alternative. And complement means all, use it always together. This is the difference. See, without one product you cannot use it another product. That is said to be a complement product. Substitute product means in place of one product you can use it another product. So if the price of substitute increases, no, the demand for the other substitute will increase. See, for example, X is one product, Y is the another product, Y is considered as a substitute. If price of X increases, means then what will happen? The demand for Y increases. The reason is consumers of X will move to buy Y product. This is what substitution effect earlier we have discussed. And complementary product means if X and Y is considered as two products, both are said to be a complementary product, right? Without one product you cannot use it another product. Example, mobile and charger, you can say that, right? Other else petrol and car, this is a common example. Okay, sharpener and pencil, you can say that. Shoe and shoe socks, you can say that. So many examples you can say that, complementary example. So if the Y price increases, means the demand for X also will, Y price increases means demand for X will come down. The reason is the consumers of this product will be coming down, so the need for X also will be less, so that's the reason the demand for X is falling down, right? This is the basic thing in the price of related goods. And then last one is number of consumers. Number of consumers is more, obviously demand for the product will be more. So in this movement along the demand curve and shift of the demand curve we can discuss. So that's it in the demand. And the supply also the same thing. Supply is also almost same. And my humble request is, do not make a fundamental mistake by marking this as the demand curve and this as the supply curve. If you are marking like that, then you will be offered only 0. Remember, this is most of the time students are making a mistake here. Remember, upward sloping means that is supply curve. If the curve is moving like upward, that is supply curve. If the curve is moving downward, that is demand curve, right? Remember this one. So supply means willingness and ability to sell, right? And the law of supply means, you know, one second. Okay, law of supply means if the price of the product is increases, then quantity supply also increases. There is a positive relationship between price and the quantity supply. See, look at this diagram, this curve. See, when the price is $0.5, quantity supply is 5. When it increases to 1.5, $15 chocolate bars are produced or quantity supplied. And when it moves to $2.5, then quantity supplied is reaching more than 25, I mean almost close to 25. So which illustrate that there is a positive relationship between the price and the quantity supplied. This curve shows that the positive relationship between price and quantity supplied. Okay, and the next one is the law of diminishing marginal returns. This is the assumption used in the laws in the law of supply. See here, as more and more variable inputs are added, one more fixed inputs, then marginal product of variable input first increase. But there comes point when it begins to decrease. See, look at it. The thing is, if we are adding one more unit of variable input, then initially the marginal product will be increasing, but later it will come down. Increasing marginal cost says that when the marginal cost is increased, when the product initially the marginal cost will be decreasing. That's the reason the quantity is increases. But when the marginal product is maximum, the marginal cost is minimum, and when the marginal product is decreases, marginal cost also increases. See, look at here. This is like what we can say. See, remember, marginal product will be initially increasing, after that it will be decreasing. This is the marginal diminishing return says. When variable inputs are added, you know the difference between variable input and fixed input, right? So variable input means when it will be changes when the output is increasing. Fixed input means the input will be remaining same when output is increasing. Right, as per the law of diminishing marginal returns, variable input increases initially. After that, it will reach a particular point. After that, it will begin to decrease. The same thing, increasing marginal cost. Because of the increase in the marginal product, see, look at, because of the increase in the marginal product, okay, the marginal cost is decreasing. Initially, marginal cost is decreasing. And the marginal product is reaching at the highest point, means the marginal cost is reaching lowest minimum point. And the marginal product started to begin to decrease, means, see, marginal product is started to decrease, means then marginal cost is increasing. So just opposite, marginal cost and marginal products are just opposite. These are the assumptions in the law of supply. And market supply, sum of all individual firm supply is considered as a market supply. Similarly, for a demand and for the demand, similarly for supply also the same thing. Some factors are influencing. Changes in the cost of production is increasing. Cost of production is increasing. Supply curve will move left side. Remember, decreases means left side, increases means right side. So the supply curve will be moving left side. And the price of related goods, if the price of related goods, there is a joint and competitive supply, right? If the price of related goods increases, means then quantity supply also will be increasing. And but for example, in the same, once again, the next one is indirect tax and subsidies. Indirect tax is imposed, means supply will be coming leftward. Direct as a subsidy means given, means supply curve will be moving rightward. And future expected price, if in the future the price will be coming down, means supply will be falling, and the future price will be increasing, means supply will be increasing. Change in technology, if there is an advancement in technology, supply will be increasing. Number of firms, it is lower, then supply will be decreasing. Number of firms in the industry is higher, then supply will be more. Again, like a movement along the demand curve, here also movement along the supply curve and shift of the supply curve. See, supply curve changes from within the curve, the supply curve changes, means that is because of the change in the price. right? Shift of the supply curve changes because of the non-price determinants. That's the difference. Okay, and we'll stop here now. Hello guys. In the previous part, we have discussed about how the supply of the curve changes and what are the reasons, and how the demand curve changes and what are the reasons. So those information we have learned. Right. Remember, once again quickly repeating, non-price determinants only will shift the demand curve outward or inward, or right side or left side. Price will be affecting only quantity demanded. Similarly, non-price determinants of supply only will be shifting the supply curve either rightward or left side, and the price will affect only quantity supplied. Okay, that is the difference, right? So extension and contraction means extension contraction within the supply curve or within the demand curve will take place, right? And meanwhile shift of the curve will take place, increases decreases will completely shift the supply curve or demand curve right side or left side. Okay, so the non-price determinants only will shift the curves, and price will shift only extension and contraction. Okay, so now we will move on the competitive market equilibrium. See, in this, where the demand curve and the supply curve is intersecting, that is said to be an equilibrium. So demand and supply is equilibrium. So at this level, this price is said to be equilibrium price, and this one is said to be an equilibrium quantity, right? So this is what they are telling, demand and supply curves forming market equilibrium. Remember, this equilibrium changes when there is a shift of the supply curve or demand curve. So from this area you can definitely expect a question in paper 2. So paper 2 there will be a 5 questions that will be based on the diagrams. So this is the one of the area usually questions will be asked, because this is foundation for economics, right? See, remember this first case, you could see that demand curve is increasing and decreasing. So if it increases means it moves outward. So this is the initial equilibrium, and new equilibrium is here. So when the demand for the product increases, you could understand that the price level increasing, quantity also increasing. This new equilibrium price and quantity is increasing. Meanwhile, when the demand for the product decreases, remember, price also decreases, equilibrium price also decreases, equilibrium quantity also decreases. Okay, the same way in case of supply, when the supply curve increases, you know that logically this is the initial and this is the new. So what we can conclude, price of the product is, equilibrium price is falling down, meanwhile equilibrium quantity is increasing when the supply is increases. Meanwhile, if the supply curve is moving left side, which means supply decreases, look at equilibrium price is increasing and equilibrium quantity is decreasing. So whenever if you have a confusion, just draw the curves and just apply your logical sense, then easily you could find out. It is not difficult. Okay, that's it. Because remember, do not assume that if the supply increases means the demand also increases. Like that, do not assume like that. Whatever the information is given, based on that you need to go ahead. See, in the question, one of this information definitely will be there, right? Change in the cost of production, changes in the price of related goods, indirect tax and subsidy, future price expectation, changes in the technology, number of firms, something will be there in the questions. Similarly, income, taste and preferences, and future price expectation, price of related goods, number of consumers, something will be there. So they will be giving clear information, so no need to worry about this one. And the next part is functions of price mechanism. Here price mechanism means this is like how the price of the product is determined in the market, right? The price of the product, how, so you know that mechanism means how it is working. Price of the product in the market, how it is working, that is what it is said to be a mechanism. So you look at resource allocation. So the resources are allocated, we have already discussed see, the resources are limited and resource allocation takes place through production possibility curve. We have discussed earlier in the first unit. Okay, this production possibility curve, the resources will be allocated towards a particular goods, means that goods price supposed to be increases, that goods supposed to be giving a more profit, then only the producer will allocate more resources to that product. Okay, so signaling, first point, resource allocation takes place based on the price mechanism. So simple way, if price of the product increases, obviously more resources allocated towards that product, and if the price of the product decreases, resources allocated to that product decreases. This is the fundamental. The next thing is signaling. Signaling means, see, price increases and decreases. This will happen in the market. So this will signal the consumer and also producer. So when the price is increasing, logically we can understand that in the market that good is scarcities. That goods are scarce. See, for example, any good you can consider. See, for example, product, see, vegetable product, you can say vegetable onion price is increasing. Just assume that onion price are increasing in the market. What we can understand, no, the onion goods availability in the market is less, so created scarcity. That's the reason the price is increasing. So if the price is falling in the market, what we can understand, no, the onion is more availability of onion is there in the market. That's the reason the producers are ready to reduce their price, and they are ready to sell at a lower price also. That leads to fall in the price level. So signaling, increasing price, so signal to the consumer and also to the producer. Incentive to the, again, both incentive to the consumer, incentive to the producer. So when the price of the product increases, that is giving incentive to the, when the price of the product increases, that is giving incentive to the producer. When the price of the product decreases, that is giving incentive to the consumers. So this is based on the resource allocation. Okay. Then next one is rationing. Rationing means it's nothing. Rationing means the product price is determined through invisible hand of the market. This is the statement given by Adam Smith. So how the price of the product is determined in the market, that we do not know, but it happened in the market because of the invisible hand. So that's the reason we are calling Adam Smith as an father of economics, because he was the first person who introduced this concept, invisible hand of the market. Okay, next we will move on the consumer surplus and the producer surplus. So in the consumer surplus, so first one, consumer surplus, what we can understand, and the producer surplus. In that we need to draw the diagram. So this is the diagram. See, same the diagram, again supply and demand, but here we are marking demand equal to marginal benefit, supply equal to marginal cost. So remember this one, supply curve is also equivalent to the marginal cost. This concept we will be using in the market structure case. So remember this one. So what is the consumer surplus? First you need to understand. See, in the equilibrium level, this is the equilibrium level. Okay. So I'll take it another this is blue. This is the equilibrium level we have discussed, where the demand curve and the supply curve is intersecting. Remember, in the market there are different types of consumers, and somebodies are ready to pay more also, somebodies are ready to pay less also. That consumers are different, right? See, for example, if the chocolate bar price is $1.5, There are some consumer who are ready to pay the same amount, $3 also, but in the market they paid 150 only. So those consumer got more surplus. They wanted to pay 3, but they paid only 1.5. So they will feel that okay, I they got a little satisfaction or surplus, like that we can say. But it is very difficult to measure. But based on what we can say, based on hypothesis way we can say that, right? So consumer surplus means the difference between consumer willing to pay. This $3 is the willing to pay. So the difference between the consumer willing to pay and the market price. So this $1.5 is the market price. So this is the difference. So this area is considered as a consumer surplus. Remember, above the equilibrium it is a consumer surplus. Below the equilibrium, this area is a producer surplus. So producer surplus, what we can do? The difference between the market price. Market price is $1.5 and the lowest possible price, here it is 0 also, at which producers are willing to sell. Right, like a consumer, producers also, they are ready to sell at $1 also or $0.5 also, but in the market they are selling the product at $1.5. So they are getting little satisfaction, right? So this area is said to be a producer surplus. Okay, this is the difference. So consumer surplus means, so usually if they want to test in the paper 2, they can ask questions like define consumer surplus, define producer surplus, like that you can expect a question. Okay, and the demand curve is said to be a marginal benefit curve. Since marginal benefit curve, because we have earlier discussed that diminishing marginal utility, that concept we have discussed in the earlier. See, when the number of quantity increases, additional benefit decreases. That's what additional benefit or marginal benefit decreases. So this is equal to the demand curve. Meanwhile, the supply curve is said to be a marginal cost curve. See, when more and more amount of goods are produced, additional cost increases. That's what the supply curve is equivalent to the marginal cost. So usually we will call like a socially optimum level of output. So socially optimum level of output is, it is very simple concept. See, remember, where the additional benefit, where the additional cost, both are equal, that is said to be a allocative efficiency. Allocative efficiency means both consumer surplus plus producer surplus means that is equivalent to the social surplus or social benefit or social cost, you can say. Social surplus or community surplus, like that you can say. Consumer surplus plus producer surplus equal to social surplus. Okay, this social surplus is maximum where the marginal benefit and marginal costs are equal. Right, so this is the fundamental, right? So now the allocative efficiency means the marginal benefit and the marginal cost are equal. So there is no gain, no loss to the society, right? So this is the basic thing. That's it in this part. And in this part you can expect some mathematical questions we have already discussed, like in the paper analysis. So there will be a 10-mark question, 10 marks will be asked especially for the calculation part. So this is the one area you can expect a question, not from the this is the one area. So they will be asking like this one table they will be giving, or some data they will be giving. They will be asking calculate consumer surplus, calculate producer surplus. Okay, so they have clearly given, see, look at, they have clearly given consumer surplus and producer surplus from the diagram. So definitely they will be giving a diagram, and there will be a price and there will be a quantity information. So you need to calculate consumer surplus and producer surplus. So we will see this one next slide. Okay, see, look at, in this case there is a diagram. So they are asking what is the consumer surplus in this case. So consumer willing to pay, this is triangle area. You know that formula, area of triangle equal to half into B into H. This everybody know that, most of the guys you know that. But if you are not knowing, area of triangle formula half into B into H. Right. See, look at consumer surplus means half into, so how much consumer is willing to pay? He is willing to pay $3, but market price is $1.5. So 3 minus 1.5, half into 3 minus 1.5, this one. And how much quantity? Market equilibrium quantity 15 into 15. So if you are just multiplying, you will get 11.25 as the consumer surplus. Meanwhile, producer surplus we have already discussed. The difference between the market price and the lowest willing to pay price. Here the lowest willing to sell price is 0. So 1.5 minus 0 into 15. So half into 1.5 minus 1.5 minus 0 into 15. So P is equal to again 11.25. So the community surplus equal to consumer surplus plus producer surplus. We are adding both. So community surplus equal to 22.50. So this is very simple calculation. It will not take more than 3 or 4 minutes to calculate. If you are very clever, you can get 2 marks in the paper 3. And then sometimes, in order to confuse us, the diagram may be like this. See, this is slightly, the below diagram, this diagram is slightly different from the above one. So in this case, remember, demand curve is here, supply curve is here. So in order to calculate the consumer surplus, what you have to do, no? You have to add this A part plus B part, right? So A plus B into this C part. C is this part. Okay, A plus B into C by 2. Half into A plus B into C. This is the formula. It's not difficult one. So in this case, you can say this base is like a 4 units. Look at here, 4 units, right? And plus 2 units, 4 plus 2, 6. And the height is how much? 3. This C part is 3. See, this part is 3, right? So this is 3. So 4 plus 2 into 3 by 2. So we will get 9. That's it. Very simple calculation. And the interesting part, this is behavioral economics part. So in this part, there is a high chance you can expect a question in paper 1. In the paper 1, there is a high chance you can expect a question this part. The reason is like this is new added syllabus content, and HL student or HL only, not SL. This is the new syllabus content added to this present batch, right? Previous batch they are not having this syllabus content. Okay, so they can test your skill in this area. Okay, now we'll move on. Critique of the maximizing behavior of consumers and producers, right? So rational consumer choice. Rational consumer choice means what? So this is the first one. Rational consumer choice are based on certain assumption and certain limitations of the rational consumer choice. So here the both things are there. That's the reason they can ask a question. Discuss by using real world example. Discuss, right? You can expect a question in this part, right? So how the rational consumers are behaving? This is the first one. First part, they will go test the 3 assumptions. First, consumer rationality. Consumer rationality means what? Consumers are behaving based on their taste and preferences. Consumers are behaving based on their taste and preferences. So these taste and preferences satisfied 3 assumptions. This is like see, ranking goods. Sometimes the consumers are indifferent between goods. Okay, example. See, A is equal to B. A is the product, B is also the product. A product equal to B, and B is also equal to A. So, which means what we can conclude? No, the consumers are indifferent between these two goods. So, whatever, whether it is A or whether it is B, that is not a matter. Indifferent between these two goods. This is what indifferent behavior of the consumer. So the rational consumer will behave based on certain assumptions. Three assumptions are there. First assumption is the consumers are indifferent in certain case. So when A to B and B to A means A and B are indifferent to the consumer. Second assumption, transitivity assumption. Transitivity assumption means this, for example, same example we'll take. A is the one product and B is the another product and C is the another good. See, if the consumers are preferring like A is preferred greater than B, if the consumers are giving a more weightage to the A than B, similarly consumers are giving more weightage to B than C. So under these circumstances we can definitely conclude that A is greater than C. A is greater than C. A is preferred than C. So this type of behavior is transitivity behavior. So the rational consumers are taking the decision, their taste and preferences also based on this one. And the next one is consumers are always prefer more than the less. This is another common behavior. So consumers for the same price, whoever giving more goods, that only the consumer will be buying, not where the goods are amount of goods are less, that they will not be buying. So consumer will always prefer more goods than less. So these are the consumer rational behaviors. They are taking decision based on taste and preferences. This is based on these three assumptions. And the next one is utility maximization. So utility means satisfaction, we have discussed. Utility, consumers will always prefer to maximize the satisfaction whenever they are consuming the product. This is the another assumption. And the third assumption is perfect information, which means consumers are having at their disposal perfect information about all their alternatives, right? So according to the consumer perspective, the consumers are having a perfect information, okay, about all their alternatives. So three important assumption of rational consumer behavior is: one is consumer behaving rationally, so indifferent between certain cases, and the transitivity behavior of the consumers, and more goods are preferred than less. Next one is utility maximization. The consumer always want to maximize their satisfaction, and the perfect information, according to the consumer, they do have a little more information than in their perspective about all their alternatives, about the goods. These are the basic assumptions. But there is certain limitations also. The consumer behavior, there is certain limitations also of the rational consumers. See, first one is biases. Biases means what we can say, the consumers are biases. So which means, one second, see, they are behaving like a rule of thumb and anchoring and framing and availability. The consumers are behaving based on certain rule of thumb and anchoring, framing and availability. See, look at rule of thumb means what? Their mental shortcuts for decision making to help. See, like they are very quick and satisfactory. They will always prefer a particular thing, right? And even they will take a not perfect decision, right? They will take quick decision without knowing detailed information about the product. In certain cases, that is rule of thumb, right? So, and anchoring, which means giving too much weight to the first piece of information the consumers are learning. Anchoring means whatever the information they know, for that they will give too much of information. See, example we can say, see, somebody is preferring iPhone or somebody is preferring Samsung or whatever the brand. Those who are having a Samsung, then they might be saying that they do have a lot of information. They were believing they do have a lot of information about the product. And those who are using iPhone, they are giving much weightage to the iPhone. So this is what anchoring behavior of the consumer. Even other products are much more cheaper and much more quality than iPhone, but the consumers will always think that iPhone is the top quality. And meanwhile, the Samsung consumers are also feel that Samsung is much better than the iPhone. This is the rule of thumb and anchoring behavior. And framing themselves describe present. Changing the framing choices may affect taste and preference. Both options have the same outcome, but framing influences the choices. So the consumers in their mind, they are framing that these good is good, these goods are like not up to the mark, like that they are framing themselves. So this is biased behavior. This is biased behavior. So based on this behavior, if the consumers are making a decision, and that decision is not perfect, right? Not perfect. And the next one is bounded rationality. Bounded rationality means good enough and herd behavior. If everybody choosing that, means they also will go and choose that one. That is what it is said to be a herd behavior. And it is they are believing that this is good enough. See, for example, if everybody is buying iPhone, means others also will be, most of the people also follow and to buy the same product, right? This is what it is said to be a bounded rationality. And the bounded self-control. Bounded self-control means like a, they're like a they're within the limits. They're self-control only within limit, but they are not behaving in the controlled way. And bounded selfishness, obviously. So whatever they prefer, whatever they are believing, that only they will, even though the lack of there is a lack of information, the consumers are not worrying about, they are bounded to selfishness and imperfect information. We have already pointed out, the consumers are believing themselves they do have a lot of information, but technically they are not having a lot of information. So these are the rational consumer behavior. So consumer behavior based on this one: consumer rationality, utility maximization, perfect information. But there are certain limitations. They are consumers are biased, rule of thumb, anchoring and framing, and availability. Right, and the next one is bounded to rationality, self-control, selfishness, and imperfect information. So please revise this one once again. You need to have a clear knowledge in this part. And the next part is behavioral economics in this choice architecture. Okay, this choice architecture in the by default restricted mode and mandated choices. See, certain area like in the departmental stores, so you could see that the products are, stored in a different way. That is said to be a choice architecture, right? See, look at this picture. This is for the consumer, those who wants to buy without option, they have to go with the Coca-Cola. In this picture, you could understand this one. In this picture, you could understand that, because there is no choice to the consumers. By default, you need to choose only Coca-Cola, right? This you can say it is a mandated choices also, or else you can say defaulted choice also. Mandated choice we cannot say that, defaulted choice only we can say that, yes. So in this case you have to pick only Coca-Cola only. Similarly, you in the departmental stores or in the e-commerce website, there is, the consumers are having a restricted choices. So within that limit only you need to buy. The consumers are having very limited choice, right? So restricted choice also playing a vital role. And the next one is mandated choice. Mandated choice means, see, in the payment gateway, if there is only one choice there, then you have to use that one. See, a mandated choice means sometimes in the e-commerce website, you need to, I mean, when you are making the payment, there is a limited choice, restricted choice. And how, in order to deal with some kind, you have to pay money. That is mandated choice, right? So choice architecture is also the big thing. And nudge theory. See, nudge theory is a very interesting theory. See, look at here. In this picture, you could understand very easily. See, after smoking, after smoking, the people are asked to vote with the buttons, right? This is the question: who is the best player in the world? So this is one part. So just by just the in this process, we can easily predict it that over a time period, the consumption of cigarette is coming down. Initially there were more number of people smoking, but over time period you could see the number of smokers came down through decrease in the number of butts, right? See, the government here didn't ask the consumers do not smoke. There is no advertisement about the smoking, like about the causes and the consequences of smoking. And there is no imposition of sanctions, no financial incentives, nothing happened. But just this is one thing, one poster, this changed the consumer behavior. So nudge theory talks about method of design to influence the consumer choice in a predictable way. Consumer choice in a predictable way. Okay, so this is nudge theory means, again repeating, method to design it to influence the consumer's choices in a predictable way without offering financial incentives, imposing sanctions, and without limiting the choice. Okay, this is what the behavioral economics in the side of consumer. The next one is we will be discussing about the business objectives. See, remember this part also you can expect a question in paper 1. In the paper 1, this is the high chance you can expect a questions, because they have asked in the specimen paper, they have asked about the common pool resource management, right? And the asymmetric information, market failure in asymmetric information, they have asked a question from that area. And this area, it is a possibility that, and you can expect like by giving real world example, evaluate whether profit maximization is the only business objective, right? Like that you can expect a question. So please be thorough in this part also. So just hold on, we will start in few minutes.